Yeah. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, sir.
Okay. So, good morning to everyone who have joined in the webinar to virtual mode. It is my honor and pleasure to host this webinar on data science and machine learning. EGS Pillai is proud to announce that we are unique in conducting multiple activity during this lockdown period. I am happy to announce here the management of EGS Pillai Group of Institution has taken numerous activity like webinar, quiz, and online competitions and many events for the public. We are proud to inform you that we are first institution in the whole Trichy region to conduct this type of webinar with the maximum capacity of 3,000 participants. And instruction to all the participants, in case if you have any problem regarding audio and video um, during this webinar, please click the reconnect button in the top of the video. Now I am hand over this session formally to Dr. M. Chinadurai to welcome the participants and the guest. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, Professor.
Yeah, welcome and greetings from AGS Engineering College. Welcome, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that.
Actually, from our institution is one of the alumni of our college. Anyway, well known to me because my class. Anyway, congratulations for this webinar as well as welcome once again. Then actually, then he's well known. She is well known person. Then for our institute, because she is also working now in educational side inside. Then she is from actually I think completed PhD in February. Yeah, I think Viva completed. Then and also is very much experience in research as well as then in teaching also. There's strong record in both teaching and administration. She completed BE in our institution in 2002 and completed ME in Satyabama University in 2010 and actually PhD at I think in Bangalore. Yes, ma'am. Bangalore.
Yes, sir. But I'm still doing.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
that is a preliminary viva. What I have shown in the profile is a preliminary viva.
Yeah.
Still on the way.
Okay. Anyway, currently she is working as associate professor in Cambridge Institute of Technology from February 2006 to till date, and previously worked as the same assistant professor from 2010 to 2016. She actually worked in different fields as a chief coordinator, sense and NAC coordinator, and other attended. So actually given a lecture for different fields and more experience in the NAC, NBA, and other thing also. And the trainer for Infosys Campus Connect program also is around more than 15 plus experience. Then worked in different places. Then also some expertise in different fields, including particularly in Python and some data mining and other subjects also. Anyway, it's a very good and having more experience in teaching as well as administration. Now is my pleasure to then introduce to our then alumni. Anyway, I'm very happy, ma'am. Now I hand out to you also. Then our students are awaiting for lecture. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. In fact, I thank Dr. Chinadurai, HOD of CSA department, for this wonderful opportunity. And I'm so much excited to give a talk to our own college juniors. I feel you are my juniors, whoever have joined here. And I'm virtually present in my college. Even though I'm at my home, I feel that I'm virtually present in our college. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Shall I start, sir, the session?
Sure.
Before starting the session, I would like to give the clarity. What is the purpose of this talk? The purpose of this talk is to introduce you people a domain. A domain is nothing but whether it is a data science or machine learning or image processing, or blockchain technology. So many technologies are there. So I'm happy to introduce one of the domains known as data science. Of course, data science and ML can't be separated. Okay, why do I need to introduce a domain first of all? See, it was a little long back where if you know C, C++, or Java are only the programming languages, and you can become a software developer in the IT industries. Those stories are old stories. Now you need to get knowledge based on the domain. So you should know how to work in a particular domain and you should gain the deep knowledge in the domain. Even a normal BSc computer science student or with a normal bachelor's degree, they are excelling in their programming or coding in the IT industry. So hereafter, as a BE graduate or as a BE professional, we don't have role of sitting and coding over there. So we should get into one particular subject or one domain into very deep and need to get the knowledge. So I'm very much happy here to introduce one of the domains to you people, data science and machine learning. Let me share the screen now. So I hope you know my name. My name is Vimla Devi. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Computer Science Engineering in Cambridge Institute of Technology. I'm from Bangalore. Right now, I'm residing at Bangalore. Okay, today we are going to learn all these objectives. What and why data science? And what is the life cycle of data science? And what are the opportunities you people are given? Or what are the job roles you will get? And what are the types of data analytics? Why Python you have to learn? And what are the advantages of learning Python? What are the types of data you need to deal with, if at all you want to excel in the data science field? Then a brief introduction to machine learning, and we are going to have a quick review of history of machine learning and types of machine learning. So these are the learning objectives of today. We are living in the age of technology. Why I'm claiming this? From the morning till we go to bed, we are living in the age of technology. We have very good mobiles. We have smart watches, which measures our amount of calories what we burn if every day walk or doing some exercises. We have smart TVs. We have smart washing machines. So many things have become smart in our house. Sometimes even homes also have become smart. Using just a mobile, we are able to control all the appliances in the home. Right. Okay, so many technologies we are acquainted from the morning till the evening. But we didn't think the other side of using this technologies extensively. So what is the other side of using this technologies extensively? Every technology is collecting a lot amount of data. Every day from the morning till the evening, a lot amount of data. I think everyone is using Facebook. In a Facebook, as a one user of myself, I'm using at least in a week, I will be uploading some 4 to 5 photos, or I will be sharing some content, right? Likewise, millions of users are around the world. So how many data will be dumped into the Facebook servers in a day? So every technology is collecting a lot amount of data. That is why, because of this technology, data are plentiful. So what is the use of this data? We keep collecting the data, we keep dumping the data into the server. But what is the use of doing all these things? The same technology is giving us a solution also. The same technology has given us a power of analyzing the data. Okay, now the question is it any benefit? Do I get any benefit if I analyze the data, whatever I collected on? So that is the question, right? Yes, there is a benefit. If you collect the data, there is a benefit, especially for the business people. I will give you an example. Before that, we try to understand why data science. The data scientist, the job data scientist, data engineer, data analyst is the most sexiest job in this millennial. Millennial means those who are born in the year of 2000 and after 2000. So this is the most sexiest job. See, this is not I am claiming. You can see here, there is a journal, Business Insider. They have given this data. India's data scientist jobs grow by 62% with 1.5 lakh opportunities in 2020. So in Economic Times, this news has come. In 2019, close to 97,000 positions related to analytics and data were vacant. It was not filled. Why it was not filled? Because due to the dearth of qualified talent. It means the people who are engineers have no skill of doing the data analysis. Right? Even though they are graduated from a very reputed university or even from a reputed institutions, the curriculum, whatever they undergo, it is not training them, which meets the skills of the expectations of the IT companies. So we are not able to reach the expectation of the companies. There is a lot of jobs still vacant, but we do not know what is their requirement. That is why we are not able to rise to the occasion. Okay, now I'm going to give some examples with respect to the data analysis. I hope everyone is able to read this. Direct marketers. Direct marketers means, okay, I think you all have the experience of going to the supermarket, right? When you go to the supermarket, you will do a purchase. After purchasing, you will be entering, you will come to the computer and you will be entering the data, what and all you purchased, and the person will be giving you the bill. Likewise, that person is entering almost every customer data, whoever is visiting. So he has a lot amounts of data. With this data, what best we can do? With this data, we are able to analyze what is the customer's interest, what is the customer they want. If they buy one item, whether they are interested in related to some other item, likewise some kind of trend, some kind of interest, this and all we can analyze. Very simply speaking, if I am running a grocery shop, if I have an experience of some 5 to 6 years, and I know about my customers, right? Whoever is coming to my shop, I know what this kind of customer will not buy so many things. Or else this customer does not mind to spend money. Or this customer, if he buys these kind of vegetables, automatically he will buy eggs also. So as a owner of the shop, I'm able to connect all these things. This is nothing but analysis. Instead of the shop owner doing, if the computer does, what it is, right? So this is one example with respect to data science or data analysis. Now let me see one more example. I don't know how many of you have experience in booking hotels online and airlines online. So likewise, many customers are booking online hotels, right? There are many websites available to book hotels online and all. So if you log into those websites, you can book hotel rooms online. You can book airlines online. Even you can book bus tickets also online. So many online ticket booking systems are available. So there is a lot of data collected at the servers at the back end. Am I right? What sort of rooms we are interested in. If at all I'm booking a hotel, what sort of rooms I'm interested in. Whether I want a very luxurious room or I want a medium level rooms or I want rooms at the lower budget. So such information is available in the system and from where I'm coming. How many times I'm booking a room in a year, right? So many informations are available. These informations are very much useful to the business people. If they get such information, they are able to make very clever business plans and business strategies so that they can improve their business. For example, you take there is a business traveler. A business traveler often and often he visits or he moves from one place to another place. Imagine that he is booking a reservation which is closer at the time of travel. So whenever he wants to travel, nearing that time only he is able to book the tickets, whether it is a bus ticket or an airline ticket, let it be. Right? But vacationer, suppose I want to go and visit Ooty or I want to go and visit Kodaikanal. I will not go every month, right? I will go only during the vacation. So now the bus owner or the administration of this travels, they understand that this customer is customer one is often and often booking tickets because he is traveling for his business. Whereas the second customer is booking only during the vacations. If I come to know this difference, I can plan a clever pricing strategy. Who is booking often and often, for him, I can reserve tickets all the time. Whoever is booking the tickets very not often and often, very on an occasion, for him I can offer the tickets at the lower prices. Likewise, I can book the tickets and I can plan my strategy in a very intelligent manner. So this is one example for the data science. Okay, now try to understand technically what is data science. What is this domain really helps the business people. This data science is trying to create greater impact in one's business using data. So with the data, whatever they have already collected or they are continuing to collect, they are creating a greater impact in one's business. How do they create that impact? By looking into their data, they can tell this is what happened in your business. This may happen in your business. Likewise, they can provide insights to the business owner. This is first kind of impact. And the second kind of impact, they can develop a software to such business people. They can regularly collect the data and they can give suggestions to the business people through their software. This is known as algorithmic solutions. And the last kind is, okay, they don't want to devise any new product. Already a lot of product recommendations are available in the market. So the people or the data analyst or data scientist can recommend new products, what is already available in the market to the business people. So that ultimately data science is helping to analyze the data and helps the business people to improve their data. The term data scientist is coined in the year 2008. Very simply speaking, the ability to take data and to be able to understand it, to process it, to extract some useful information from the data, and to visualize it and to communicate it is a hugely important skill required in this decades. So I'm requesting you students, if this domain is really interesting you, please develop your knowledge in this field. I'm not compelling that all of you have to become data scientists. You see whether this domain is interesting to you. Okay, this is the data science life cycle, or I can say this is a life of a data scientist. Suppose you are a data scientist. This is what you have to do in your office. You understand like that. The very first step is business understanding. Business understanding means you might be working for hotels, or you might be working for airline industry, or you might be working for some other travel industry. Or as I said in the first example, you might be working for some direct marketers who are running a group of malls, right? So first you need to have a thorough understanding of the business. That is the first step. And the second step, you need to collect the data which is required for the business. Then you have to understand the data properly in the right sense. Then the next step is data is to be prepared. This data preparation, in fact, it is involving a lot of steps. You may ask me why data is to be prepared, because the data, whatever you collected, no, it might be dirty data, or it might be incomplete data, or some values might be missing. In all those cases, what you need to do, you have to prepare the data in such a way that it is suitable for analysis and to build a software on that, so that it won't be creating any mess at the end of the development of the model. So data should be clean, data should be standardized, data should be normalized. All these steps put together is nothing but data preparation phase. After this, we go for data modeling. Once the data is completely ready, I will try to give an example. See, you people would be working in your SQL databases, right? SQL databases. First, what you will be doing, you will be creating a table, you will be inserting a data, and all those basic DDL commands and all you will be executing. Later, what you will be doing, you will be executing your DML commands, the data manipulation commands, or what you can call, you will be writing the queries to fetch the data, right? So data preparation phase is nothing but creating, inserting the data, keeping your database very clean and make it suitable for further processing. That is up to data preparation. So what is happening in data modeling? In the data modeling, you are building a software which sits on the data, and that model will fetch the information or will get trained by the data, right? Then it will reply to the business people based on the questions what they ask. This is what known as data modeling. In the data modeling phase, all the machine learning algorithms are applicable. Here only the concept of machine learning comes into the picture. After that, the developed model is to be evaluated. Then the model is to be deployed. You can't say that in the beginning stage only the model, whatever you developed, will be working with 100% accuracy or up to the expectation whatever you have. You may need to iterate. You may keep on improving your data models, whatever you developed. So this is the life of a data scientist. But you don't get panicked that whether you have to do all the steps as a data scientist. Now I'll introduce some job roles here. Before that, we see all these steps once again with a little example. What is business understanding? First of all, I should understand for which business I'm working for. All right. So I should ask the right question to the business people. You people know the Uber travels. If you have, I mean, in almost all the cities, Uber, Ola cars and all are running there. Suppose I'm developing or I'm working as a data scientist to those travel companies. I can ask these kind of questions because these kind of questions are the right questions. What percentage of time do your drivers actually drive? This information will help you to analyze their data. How steady is their income? You have to put these kind of questions to collect the data from them to frame the objectives. When you are developing a software, there is an objective required, right? For this purpose only, I am developing the software, right? So to know, to understand what is their requirement, you have to put such questions to the people. The next example I have taken is Oyo hotels. In the cities, there are hotels which are all stamped as Oyo. It's a kind of grade, you think, because our colleges are accredited, right? NAC accredited, NB accredited. Some in such a way, hotels are Oyo hotels, means some kind of branding it is. To such Oyo hotels, you can ask, what is the average occupancy of Medicore hotels? That is useful information for you to carry out the analysis. Then Alibaba is a company, you know that. Jack Ma, I think you would have read about him. So to such companies, you can ask, what are the per square feet profits of our warehouses? Right? So you should know to question the business people also intelligently so that you will get useful information. This is the first phase of the data science life cycle. The next phase is data collection. So what is data collection? Asking the right questions to the business people. If it is your recipe for preparing the item, then the ingredient to the recipe is nothing but the data. So you have to collect data from different sources, and you should know how to collect the data. There are two ways of collecting the data. One is primary methods. Other one is, you can call it a secondary way of collecting the data. From the primary method, you will conduct polls. You will take surveys. You may ask interviews with the business people. So likewise, there are many ways to collect the data. We can call it as primary data collection method. What are secondary data collection method? It's nothing but from the vision and mission of the business. Already they might be having the sales report, profit and loss report, financial report, or government report, whatever the data they have. From there, if you try to collect the data, it is all secondary sources of data collection. So business is understood, data is collected, The next come the data preparation. You need to prepare the data. The data, whatever you are collecting, may not be the cleaned data. It might be dirty. For example, if an employee of your college only you take, because you know your college domain now, right? In your college, suppose I'm working in CSA department, I would have given my name with correct spelling, but my name in the office, they would have misspelled, right? So computer will not know this Vimala Devi and the Vimala Devi, what is misspelled is one and the same. System will treat both the names as different people, but there is only one person, right? So data cleaning is required for this some problems. Sometimes when I'm trying to give the data, I may not enter all the data, whatever is asked in the form. Even while you are filling the college forms, you will not be filling all the data. Sometimes you feel lazy and you skip the data and continue to fill the rest of the data, right? Or some Excel form, something like that. So some data found to be missing. Some data might be entered wrongly. For example, if there is a column to ask to enter the data, I may enter the data in the form DDMMYY. Some might be entering in the format MMDDYY, or some might be entering in words 4th July, 5th July, something like that. But all meant the data, right? So you need to bring all this data in a standardized format. So all these steps will come under data preparation. Once the data is ready now data is ready for analysis. So a person can analyze well the data. Now the data is to be modeled. Please remember, data modeling means I'm talking only about the machine learning. So what is data modeling? It is nothing but you are training the machine to work on your data so that if business people ask some questions to this model will reply to the business people. Imagine the model is sitting on the data and business people don't know about what data, what you have cleaned, what program you have written. As a business people, I don't need to know all those things. I have paid only for that purpose to you. I told you to develop a model. Whenever I put a question, it should be able to reply to me, right? So my model is ready. As a data scientist, I made the model ready and given to the business owner. That business owner, he will put questions. That questions need to be answered by the model, right? Technically, data modeling means, you remember, implementation of machine learning algorithms. Yeah. Okay, in the field of data science, what are the job roles you people have? There are 3 job roles. One is data engineer. I'm just starting from the right-hand side. Then data analyst, then data scientist. Who is data engineer? Till the data preparation phase, you can call the person as a data engineer. Data engineer has to understand the business. Data engineer has to collect the data from various sources. And the data engineer has to move the data to the corresponding servers, databases, everything, right? So the role of data engineer is he has to establish the foundation where data analyst and data scientist can work on. He is responsible for constructing data pipeline and often have to use complex tools and techniques to handle the data at scale. A good data engineer allows a data scientist or analyst to focus only on solving their analytical problems and building data. The rest of the responsible things and all is taken care by data engineer. His thing is collect the data, keep it in appropriate databases, facilitate the way he has stored, and give it to the data analyst. Once the data is completely ready, ready means it is available in the memory, it is available in the servers, and data engineer has facilitated to the data analyst and data scientist the easy way of accessing the data. You see, the programming language is what is required for that: Python, R, SQL, SAS, and Java. The frameworks with which data engineer works is Hadoop, MapReduce, Hive, Pig, Apache, NoSQL, etc. These frameworks are, I hope you know, these are all popular big data frameworks. right? Big data means large amount of data. You cannot store a large amount of data in your small local computer, right? You need a bigger frameworks where you can store a large amount of data. So these are the frameworks data engineer working. Okay, what is the role of data analyst? Now all the data are collected and it is stored in the databases or database servers, and it is readily available for use. Now the data analyst will access the data and he will analyze the data, he will clean the data, he will standardize the data, right? All the data pre-processing steps will come into picture, and he will prepare the data in such a way and hand over to the data scientist so that the data scientist can use the machine learning algorithms and build a model on the data. Right? I hope you would have understood what is who is data engineer, who is data analyst, and data scientist. Just let me go back to the previous data science life cycle here. Your data collection. Up to this is a role of data engineer. Actually, data engineer is working at the back end. His job is to keep and store the data at the database servers, and he has to give a very easy retrieval or easy access to the data analyst. The role of data analyst starts from here, from data understanding to data preparation, etc. After that, the role of data scientist begins here. He starts developing the models on the data. Now I think you all got an idea about what is completely the life cycle of data science. So I'm a little specific with the role of data analyst. I just want to highlight what is the role of data analyst here. He should know the set of techniques to analyze the data. One important thing I forgot to say is this data science field is driven by the mathematics. Okay, in mathematics means which areas I have to be good enough. If you are interested in probability and statistics, then certainly this data science, data analytics is your cup of tea. You can enjoy learning this data science and data analyst, probability theory and statistics. So the basic techniques which are used to analyze the data are developed from mathematics. Okay, if there is a proper business understanding plus exploratory data analysis put together leads to the growth of business. EDA means exhaustively analyzing the data, exploratory data analysis. I think in your autonomous syllabus, the subject data mining is there. Actually, in data mining also, these are the steps, right? So the same steps are followed in data science also. Okay, skill sets, what are required here? Knowledge of probability and statistics. Must know to pre-process the data and prepare the data. You must have the technologies. You must learn the technologies to do exploratory data analysis. Then data visualization. Data visualization is nothing but presenting the data in the form of graphs, in the form of pictures. Rather than you speaking and explaining, the graphs, the bar chart, the histograms, the line chart, the scatter plots, whatever you created, it must speak to the business people. So visualization means what? You are visualizing, you are seeing what you are seeing, the graph. So data visualization is the phase where the data are converted into wonderful graphs. After that, modeling the data. Just a person who is only working on the machine learning algorithms can be designated as ML engineer also. In some of the companies, they are employing ML engineer. You can understand the definition like this also. A data analyst plus ML engineer put together is a data scientist. There are 4 types of data analytics: descriptive analytics, diagnostic analytics, predictive analytics, and prescriptive analytics. So let us learn what is descriptive analytics. What is happening in my business? If I try to know, that is descriptive analytics. Comprehensive, I should know the data, whatever the data I have. Based on that, I'm just trying to know what is happening in my business. For example, I can check what is a monthly profit and loss statement, or I should know the information about my employees, understanding the demographic information. All this is nothing but descriptive analytics. What is diagnostic analytics? Why is this happening in my business? If I put a question, it means I'm trying to diagnose something. I'm trying to find out what is going wrong or what is going right in my business. Actually, if you try to know why it is happening, it empowers an analyst, data analyst, to drill down to the root cause of the problem, and in so doing, isolate the related reasons. The next comes predictive analytics. Predictive analytics means, okay, now I know what has happened. Why is it happening also? I know. What will happen in the future? That is nothing but predictive analytics. For example, everybody is using mobile. You would have seen the weather forecasting. Weather forecasting is prediction, right? Forecasting, the word itself says that what is going to happen in the future, it is explaining. So what will happen in the future is nothing but predictive analytics. And the last one is prescriptive analytics. What is prescriptive analytics? What do I need to do to improve my business? What has happened? Why it is happening? I know what is going to happen in the future also. So what is the prescription or what is the suggestions I get to improve or to work on my business? That is prescriptive analytics. I'll give you a better example. You people might be using Google Maps to travel from one place to another place. Sometimes when you are traveling, your Google Maps would be suggesting you two different routes. One route you will be traveling, at the same time it is suggesting you what? Another alternative route, right? Maybe based on the traffic or some other reasons, it is suggesting you the alternate route. That is prescriptive analytics. It is prescribing you in advance. You can take this alternative route so that you can reach the destination in advance. So these are the popular tools available for data science. By looking into the slide, don't get panicked. Oh, these many technologies, do I need to learn? No, not necessarily. If you learn Python or R, it is enough. And Python is one-stop shop for all the solution. Python is used in all the applications except mobile development. So for mobile, we have Android, right? If you learn Android, Java and Android, that helps for your mobile application development. But Python is one-stop solution for all the applications. If you want to become a data engineer, go for Python. If you want to become a data analyst, go for Python. If you want to become a data scientist or ML engineer, go for Python. Want to do image processing, go for Python, right? So if you learn Python, you can really excel in many fields. You can take a chance in exploring in more than one field. If you want to work in a big data, then you must know this technology, Hadoop and Spark. So Python with a combination of Hadoop and Spark, you can do it. So why Python? Why Python is so popular? It has gained its popularity very recently, but actually Python is developed a long back. It has a very good ecosystem of libraries. Libraries means a lot of packages. I hope you are working with Python right now. If not, also, I try to give example from the C++ language. You people are using the header files, right? Similarly, we call here as libraries. So very good ecosystem of libraries Python has. And Python supports reading the data from your local computer or from even the databases or even from the cloud also. Right? At the same time, if you are working on a big data, Python helps you to connect with big data frameworks like Hadoop, Spark, etc. Python is easy to understand. If a problem is given, using Python, you can you can be fast to prototype it. And another biggest advantage is Python supports both functional programming as well as object-oriented programming. C is functional programming paradigm, whereas C++, Java, C# are object-oriented, right? But Python supports both. Above all, most of the Indian data scientists prefer Python. The reason is it is an open source tool. There is one more popular language called R also, which is used for data analysis. R is developed specifically for data analysis, but beyond R, Python is gaining popularity because if I learn Python, I can work in many platforms. That is the advantage. Okay, these are the Python libraries with respect to your data science: Pandas, NumPy, Matplotlib, and Seaborn, scikit-learn. Pandas for data pre-processing and manipulation operations. NumPy for mathematical and logical operations. Matplotlib and Seaborn is used for data visualization to present your data in the form of graphs. Scikit-learn is for machine learning algorithms to build the data modeling. These many IDEs are there, commonly used IDEs for Python, PyCharm, and there is one framework called Anaconda. If you download that Anaconda, you will get this PyCharm, Spider, Jupyter, everything in one single framework. And there is one more thing, Atom is there. It's an independent version. Above all, there is one more easiest thing is that if you have a Gmail account enough to work with Python, please Google Colab. Google Colab is similar to this Jupyter environment. You can directly code there simple programs to data science, data analytic program in that Google Colab, and it will be automatically saved in your Google Drive. If time permits, I will show you at the last Google Colab to you people. Okay, till now we have come to know all those things. Now let us see what are the types of data available. These are the types of data we have. Data types are categorical and numerical. These are the major data types. We should know before working on the different types of data, we should know the types of data, right? So what are the types of data available? There are two major types of data. One is categorical, another one is numerical. Again, categorical data is divided into nominal and ordinal. Numerical data, in fact, it is further divided into discrete and continuous data is further divided into interval and ratio. Now we try to understand what is categorical data. Categorical data represents characteristics, right? The data will be names, you remember like that. For example, suppose when we ask you to enter the gender, either you will be entering M or F, or sometimes M is represented as 0 and F is represented as 1. 0 is meant for male, 1 is meant for female. With that 0 and 1, even though it is numerical, you cannot do any arithmetic operations with that, right? Suppose 0 represents male, 1 represents female, 0 plus 0 or 1 plus 1, if you add, what is the use of that? No, right? Instead of male, female, we are using the numbers. These numbers are also representing the categories. The next type of data is nominal data. Among the categorical, there are two types of data. One is nominal, another one is ordinal. So what is nominal data? Nominal means, you remember, it is names. You can easily remember like it is all names. So you can see the examples here. A person's gender. What will you be entering? Either male or female. Suppose if I ask you the question, how you commute to your college? What you will say? I commute by bus, or I commute by cycle, or I commute by two-wheeler, or I commute by auto. So that is also the data, right? You are entering some names there. Such data are called nominal data. Suppose I ask your blood group, A plus, B, O, likewise you will be entering, or color of the eye, car brands, Maruti, Tata, likewise. Now, I ask you a question. Do you own a car? What will be your reply? Will you reply 4.5, 3.2, something like that? No, right? When I ask you a question, do you own a car? You will say either yes or no. Such data are called nominal data. What is categorical data? Ordinal data. Ordinal data is also a categorical data, right? So you should know what is ordinal data. Ordinal values represent discrete and ordered units. Now, after this session, I'm asking you to give the feedback on my talk. Okay. So I have said this: fair, good, better, and the best. All these are names. Once again, it is nothing but a categorical type of data only. But among this data, do you feel an order exists, or do you feel there is a rank existing? Fair means you would have kept at the bottom level rank. Good is better than fair. Better is even more better than good. And the best is at the topmost rank, right? So among the nominal data, if there is a rank order among the nominal data, it is nothing but ordinal data. Nominal means you remember names. Ordinal means it is also names, but along with some rank, or along with some order. Okay, suppose I ask you have a severe headache. How is a pain? What is the severity of the pain? If I ask you, you may say, okay, I have a very slight pain. Okay, pain I can tolerate. It is at the medium level. No, I can't tolerate the pain. I have a very high level of pain. So low, medium, high is nothing but the order which explains the severity of the pain. So first type of data we have seen, categorical data. Again, categorical data is divided into nominal and ordinal. Both nominal and ordinal are categorical data only. It means some names. The only difference between nominal and ordinal is ordinal has some rank order among the data. Look at the last example. How likely are you to recommend our services to your friends? Or how likely are you to recommend my product to your friends? Excuse me. You can answer like this: very likely, likely, neutral, unlikely, very unlikely. So if you read this data, you can certainly understand that there is an order among the data. There is a rank among the data. Okay, now we speak about numerical data. Numerical data is again classified into two. One is discrete, another one is continuous. I'll give examples for discrete data. Discrete data can be counted. For example, number of children. How many number of siblings you have? If I ask you the question, you will say, I have one sibling, two siblings, or three siblings, like that. You will never say, I have 2.5 siblings, right? So how many number of times you visited the doctor? If I ask you the question, I visited 3 times, or I have not visited at all, or I have visited 5 times, that would be your reply. You will not say, I have visited 2.2 times or 5.6 times, something like that. You won't reply. Such numerical data are called discrete data. What is continuous data? Continuous data cannot be counted. You can't count the continuous data, but you can measure the continuous data. For example, height of a person, weight of a person, area of this house or area of this plot. From place A to place B, what is the distance? Whenever you are measuring something, you can call it as continuous data. Again, continuous data is further divided into interval and ratio scaled data. So let us see what is continuous data first. In the continuous data, let us see first what is interval data. Sometimes you may need to collect data in this way. What is the temperature? 0, from 0 you want +5 or -5 or something like this, right? This is an example for interval data. Now we see what is the example for ratio valued data. For example, you are asking the length of cloth you take, length of cloth or length of something else. So you are asking the user to enter the data. Length might be 0, length might be 5 inches or 10 inches or 15 inches, something like this it is given. Okay, both look similar, right? What is the difference between interval and ratio scaled data? I'll tell you very clearly. See, suppose you have a rope of length 5 meters you take, and you have a rope, another rope of length 10 meters. I can say the second rope is twice the length of the first rope. Am I right? I can say the second rope, whose length is 10 meter, is twice the length of the rope one, whose length is 5 meters. Whereas, okay, suppose I have a third rope whose length is 15 meters. How can I say that? I can compare with the first one, right? Rope 3 is 3 times longer than rope 1. This kind of data is ratio values. One value can be compared with the other value, and I can tell in terms of ratio. The basic max I'm talking about. I'm not telling something new here, right? 5:10:15. If you say, if I ask you to find the ratio, what will you reply? 1:2:3, right? So you are able to, the data are ratio valued. Whereas in this case, the previous example, it is not so. See, 10 degrees Celsius is not twice as hot as 5 degrees Celsius. Please understand that. 10 degrees Celsius is not twice as hot as 5 degrees Celsius. Why? Because 10 degrees Celsius is equal to 50 degree Fahrenheit, whereas 5 degrees Celsius is equal to 41 degree Fahrenheit. Similarly, we might be knowing the another measure, right? The acidity measure, pH value. pH value of 3 is not twice as acidic as pH value of 6. So pH value is not a ratio variable. Instead, it is an interval value. I hope with this example you have understood all these things. So we are talking about the types of data. Types of data in general is divided into qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative means, you remember the term quality. So normally quality, we will speak in terms of words. So qualitative is nothing but the categorical data. Quantitative means, remember the term quantity. Quantitative means we will measure in terms of numbers. So it is numerical data. Again, categorical is divided into nominal and ordinal, and numerical is further divided into interval and ratio data. I hope you got an idea about the types of data. So now we see a basic introduction about machine learning. Machine learning is in fact a very huge topic. Writing software is a bottleneck. Bottleneck, you know, right? So how the bottleneck looks, a very small one, right? So writing software is also, I have the feeling as though I am trying to be pushed inside to the bottle through that neck. I'm not a good programmer. I means I am. I don't enjoy writing coding, but I enjoy writing queries. Even it's not that every BE graduate must be core programmers or core coders, right? If you are good at DBMS and if you are good at writing queries, completely explore in that field. If you are good at coding, you continue to develop that skill. Okay. No, I am in the middle level. I might be coding, I might be writing the querying, but not at the very good level means then Python is your destination. Python does not require you to sit and write a line by line coding. Already all the packages are there. You just need to drag and drop and complete the program. Okay. So let us continue this. Machine learning is really a huge topic. Writing software is a bottleneck, or we don't have enough good developers. There are coders, but they are not efficient coders. Efficient means I am telling in terms of analyzing the efficiency of the algorithm. Right? Algorithm, whether you will be measuring the efficiency of the algorithm in terms of time and memory space, right? So developers may write the code, but that code might not be efficient. So why I have to write the code? Let the data, whatever we have collected, let the data do the work instead of the programmers. So machine learning is a concept which is making the computers to program for themselves. What is the advantage of machine learning? It is a way of making programming scalable. Scalable means what? It allows you to work on even a large amount of data set. So making computers to act without being explicitly programmed is a concept of machine learning. Machine learning has a lot of applications in many fields: NLP, computational biology, computer vision, robotics, data science, etc. See, I have given some examples here. I don't know how many of you are aware of all these things. Okay, I think everyone is aware of Google Photos because it is already there in your mobile, right? Google Photos is one best example for machine learning. How can I say it is an example for machine learning? You would keep on taking the photos, and those photos are dumped in your Google Drive. Suddenly, one day, the Google Photos application will give you a good collection of photos to you without your permission. You didn't tell the Google Photos, give me some photos, or you didn't search for the photos. Suddenly, one day, it will be giving you. For example, you take last year birthday, you had taken a lot of selfies with your friends, and it is available in the Google Drive. Now, for this year birthday, Google Assistant will give you some good collection of photos to you. How is that happening? It is because of machine learning algorithms. Another example, where can I go? Okay, you people might be using Facebook uh, or Instagram or LinkedIn, some social media like this. You might have downloaded Amazon to do online purchases, right? Suppose I'm browsing the catalog in Amazon to purchase something, but I have not purchased anything, and I close the Amazon. Okay, at the same time, my application in Facebook is also opened. After some time, if I open the Facebook application, I could see some better product recommendations, whatever I have seen in the Amazon. Similar products would be recommended in my Facebook. How is that happening? It is happening only because of machine learning algorithms. Okay, now we see another example, third example, YouTube. You might be watching videos which you are interested on, right? Suppose you are watching videos related to Python, some 2 3 videos you have watched for a day. The next day, automatically, YouTube will be recommending you some more videos with related to Python. So how this is happening? The underlying algorithm is machine learning algorithm. So what is machine learning? It is a field of study that gives computers the ability to learn. So computers are getting the ability to learn without explicitly you programming. So this definition is given by Arthur Samwell in the year 1959. And he is the first person who developed the checkers program. Checkers program is nothing but it is similar to the chess game, right? He developed that game, and that game played with human professionals, and it every time that game beat the human professionals, and the human professionals in fact got trained themselves by playing with this checkers program software. I think that also I have displayed. Can you see this board here? This is the checkers board. This was that game software was developed by Arthur Samwell, and he has not only developed the game, he has artificially given the intelligence to that game so that the software was learning itself to make the moves and every time it beat the human professionals who ever played with that board. Okay, now we see the quick history of machine learning. Can you see this picture? It is somewhat similar to your Venn diagram in graphs. Artificial intelligence is a broader field of computer science. Machine learning is the subset of artificial intelligence, and deep learning is a subset of machine learning. Deep learning is nothing but the neural network concepts. I am sure you must be having the subject AI, because when we were doing engineering, we had that subject AI. So obviously you also must be having the subject AI. So AI is a broader field of study. Machine learning is a subset. Deep learning is in fact is a subset of machine learning. So machine learning, deep learning all have come from artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence has seen its development in the year 1950s. During that time only Arthur Samwell developed the checkers board game, which was playing with human professionals, all those things. Then slowly neural networks was losing its popularity. Then suddenly once the Python came into picture, machine learning started flourishing. And in the year 2000 and all, machine learning went to its peak, the pinnacle of excellence. Then from 2010 onwards, deep learning started becoming popular. You might have heard in the news that there are driverless cars. Car is moving on the roads without driver, just by sensing what is happening or which vehicles are coming on the either side of the road. There are driverless cars. Please browse and check. Those driverless cars are nothing but the yield of this deep learning concepts. So this is what I explained right now, the history. Okay. Now we try to understand what is machine learning in a very simple manner. Before knowing what is machine learning, how do we study? How do we learn? Suppose tomorrow you are asked to write a test. How do you study? You will try to mug up some things, because some basic definitions we need to mug up. That should be memorized and it should be in your memory. And certain things you have to understand. And if you have understood, if similar questions are asked, you might be able to understand. So these are the two ways of studying. If you try to mug up, remember, and when you are asked questions in the test, if you reproduce the same thing, then it is declarative knowledge. Already you have knowledge on something. Using that knowledge, you are trying to deducing some other new concepts and new knowledge. It is nothing but imperative knowledge. So this is how we learn. So either already some concepts would be there in our mind, we just reproduce the same thing, or based on our understanding, we try to relate some other concepts and we try to answer. That is imperative knowledge. In the same way, machine is also learning. Machine learning means machine is learning. Machine is studying. You remember like that. Okay. Then what is the difference between traditional programming, whatever we do now, and what is machine learning? In the traditional programming, what do? You write a program, right? And you will be giving an input data. Once the program is executed, it will give you the output. This is what known as traditional programming. What is machine learning? In the machine learning, to the computer, you will be exposing a lot amount of data, right? This output is nothing but for every data what the computer has to remember. Once it is reading lot amount of data, it uses its intelligence and it gives you the model or the program. This is machine learning. Okay, for example, I'll tell you like this. In your class, there are 60 students you take. There are toppers in your class who studies well and who always produces a very good marks. And there are middle level students who score somewhere around some 60 to 70% you take. And there are always some backbenchers. If they don't score the marks, it is not that they are dumbos. They might be excelling in something else, right? So there are backbenchers. As a teacher, now I know who is a backbencher, who is a medium level player, and who is a topper, or who can, or else I can guess that who can become the topper, or based on their behavior or based on the way they are taking the thing seriously, I can tell who can go to the backbench. All those things I know. I am learning, I am understanding the 60 students to whom I'm taking the classes, right? Based on your characteristics, based on your behavior, and I am coming to some conclusion in my brain about each and every student, right? This is what the computer in machine learning is also doing. Computer is continuously reading the data and it comes to some conclusion. Based on the conclusion, whatever it has come, if you give the data, it will answer you. Then you may ask me how the computer is made to read the data. So you are training the computer on the data, right? So you have to write the programs to train the data. Such algorithms are machine learning algorithms. Are you getting? For example, you are writing a program to print the Fibonacci series. Now in machine learning, you will be training the machine to write the Fibonacci series program. I hope you are able to understand the difference between the traditional and the machine learning. Okay, look into this picture, all right? All are apples, right? So this is a red apple. This is a apple picture only, but it is in different color. This is a logo of the Apple company. This is also an apple, which is yellow in color. So I am training my computer by showing the pictures of the apple. So in future, if I show one picture of apple, my computer must be able to say it is an apple. This is what known as machine learning. In traditional programming, if at all I have to write a program for identifying apple, first I have to write a function to detect color. I have to write a function to detect the edges of the apple. I have to write a function to detect, to analyze the shapes, to analyze the texture of the apple and the orange, right? Suppose I have one more orange picture you take, right? Suppose I'm training my machine for apple as well as for oranges. So the texture of apple is different from the texture of orange. So I should write a function so that the computer can make a guess about whether it is an apple or an orange. Likewise, I have to write so many functions to recognize whether it is an apple or an orange. But in machine learning, it is very simple. Get the data, prepare the data, train the model. Train the model means you are going to use a machine learning algorithm so that your computer will learn from the data. Then test your machine model with the data. If your model is not working fine, no problem. You can iterate further and you can keep improving your model. Okay, till now I said data. In general, for machine learning algorithms, how the input data looks. This is how the input data looks. Input data is not one or two data. It's going to be a very large files that are like in columns. See, this is one sample data set. This data set you can even download from Google. Iris data set, a very popular data set, Iris data set. And all these data sets are having the extension CSV, comma separated values. Okay, now we see the data set. There are 5 columns, right? Sepal length, sepal width, petal width, and iris class. So these are all, can you guess what are the types of data? The first 4 columns are numerical data, and the last column is categorical data. Again, in the numerical data, the first 4 columns are data, right? And the last column is nominal data. It's not ordinal data, it is just a nominal data. So this is how the input data for machine learning algorithms looks. The sepal length, sepal width, petal length, and petal width are nothing but the attributes. These are all nothing but the names of the flowers. Versicolor, setosa, virginica are nothing but the botanical names of the flowers. So for each flower, they have given what is its sepal length and what is its petal length. All right. So first row you take. This is first row, right? One versicolor flower is described by sepal length is 5, sepal width is 2 for it. Its petal length is 3.5 and its petal width is 1. There is one more versicolor flower whose sepal length is 6, sepal width is 2.2, petal length is 4 and petal width is 1. Likewise, there are a sequence of data given. Each row you can call it as a data point or example, or you can call it as instance also. Each column you have to call it as attribute, or you can call it as properties also. These are nothing but the attributes of the flowers. These are nothing but the properties of the flowers. So this is how input data set looks, whichever you are feeding for the machine learning algorithms. This is another example I have given here. All these columns are attributes. These are all the input attribute and this is the target attribute. I tell you why they are calling this as the target attribute. By knowing all these attributes, they are classifying whether the email is a spam or not a spam. Suppose the number of recipients of that mail is 0 and the length of the email is 2. From where the mail has come, if it is Germany, and if the customer type of that email user is gold, then the email type is not a spam. Spam emails, I hope you know, right? So based on this data set, the type of the emails are classified into either spam or ham. So all these rows are called instances. All these columns are called attributes. This is another example for the data set. Okay, now we see what are the types of machine learning. There are 3 types of machine learning: supervised machine learning, unsupervised machine learning, and the third one is reinforcement machine learning. What is machine learning? If machine is learning in the presence of a supervisor, then it is supervised machine learning. If few people are learning in the presence of a teacher, it is supervised learning. If you people are learning and studying by yourself, it is unsupervised. Same case for the machine also. Reinforcement learning is nothing but based on the feedback, based on some provoking. Suppose I might be reading on an average, but my friend would have excelled. She would have got more marks. Oh, because of her, I would have got encouraged if I continue to learn very well. Such type of learning is reinforcement learning. So there are 3 types of machine learning: supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement. Under the supervised learning, we are able to perform 2 tasks. One is classification, another one is regression. Under the unsupervised, the major task what is happening is clustering. Apart from clustering, there are some more tasks also like anomaly detection, dimensionality reduction, etc. So let us see that. See, please look into the picture. First look into the step 1, then you see what is there in the step 2. So this is your computer. We are calling it as a mission. To this mission, you are giving a lot of pictures of cats. You are not only giving the pictures of cats, and you told that to the mission, these pictures are nothing but cats, right? So mission knows this is a cat, this is another cat, this is another cat. Likewise, mission is learning. Okay, now come to the step 2. You have trained the mission with the pictures of cats. Now you are going to test your mission. We conduct a test, right, for you people. After teaching people something, we conduct tests, right? Similar to that, we are conducting the test for the mission also. So you are testing your mission. So first picture, if mission sees, it knows it is a cat. By looking into the second picture also, mission recognizes it is a cat. By looking at the third picture, it is certainly knowing that it is not a cat because a dog picture is given, right? So who is the supervisor here? Right, in the class, we teachers are there. For the mission, who is the supervisor? See here, you are training your mission with the labels. That labels are the supervisor. Are you getting the concept? So the labels, whatever you have given to the picture, are the supervisor. So the machine not only sees the picture, it knows what is there in the picture also, right? So there are two types of problems which you can tackle under the supervised machine learning algorithms. One is classification, another one is regression. Classification means if cats and dogs are given, if you are able to classify which are cats and which are dogs, it is nothing but classification. Regression means you are calculating some numerical value, that is regression. See, now I'm giving an example for regression. See, this is a data set. In the data set, can you see the rows? The first column is nothing but a square feet of the house. In the second column, it says that number of bedrooms in the house. And the third column is the number of bathrooms. For 3,125 square feet house with 5 bedrooms and with 3 bathrooms, the price of that house is these many dollars. Similarly, for 2,100 square feet home, with these configuration or with these data, the house is costing so much. With 1,200 square feet of house, with 3 bedrooms and 1.5 bathrooms, the price is this. So I have fed all this data to the machine. Now I'm asking my machine, what might be the price of 3,950 square feet with 6 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms? Now the machine is calculating and giving you the value. This task is known as regression, right? This also comes under supervised learning. Who is a supervisor here? This price is a supervisor here. With all these attributes, there is a label. If these are the attributes, this is the price of the home. If these are the attributes, this is the price of the home. So there is a supervisor or there is a label in the data set. So from there, the machine is learning the task of calculating the new data. This task is known as regression. Now we say unsupervised machine learning. Sorry, some data is there. Please ignore that. Look into the machine here. Is there a machine? And the machine is trained with a lot of pictures. But the machine is not told that this is a dog, this is a cat. Likewise, the machine is not given any information. Machine is fed only with the pictures. But you see, in the step 2, machine is automatically classifying the pictures. How it is classifying? It is finding some similarity among this, and it is finding some familiarity among these pictures. This task is known as clustering, and there is no supervisor here. Who is missing or what is missing here? The label on the data is missing here, right? So that is why these kind of machine learning is known as unsupervised. For example, in our house, small babies will be there, right? For the small baby, we teach by showing every item. See, this is watch, this is table, this is sofa, this is dog, this is cat, something like that we show and we train our babies, right? Suppose from the home we are taking the baby to some other place. There might be a different dog with a different color or different breed will be there. But by looking at that, baby identifies, right, it is a dog. So it has able to find the similarity with what it learned and what it is seeing. Similarly, machine also here, it does the same thing. It tries to find the similarity among the pictures and it clusters the group of data. This kind of action is known as clustering. Okay, we have seen what is unsupervised. Among unsupervised learning, apart from the clustering, there are other tasks also. Anomaly detection, we say. Anomaly detection means outlier detection. Suppose we are collecting the data of students in a class. What is his roll number? What is his age? What is his marks? +1, +2 marks or 10th marks? What is his address? Who is his parents? All this. Suddenly for one student, if the age is 0, is it possible the age to be 0? That is an anomaly. That is an outlier, right? Such kind of outlier detection can be done with the help of unsupervised learning. Then finding association. This is very interesting task in unsupervised learning. You people would have visited the supermarkets, not the supermarkets I mean, if you would have visited the supermarkets at the cities I'm talking about, in our local areas, the supermarkets, the items are not arranged in that way. Suppose I hope you would be aware of that. More is a very popular brand for the supermarket. In Chennai and all, if you go, you can visit that. Right there, they have arranged the items right. They have not arranged those items just like that. For example, I'm telling, they have arranged the item based on the preferences of the customer. Right? Suppose I purchase bread in the shop. I may have the tendency of purchasing butter also. If I purchase bread, I have the tendency of purchasing egg also to make sandwich or something with respect to the bread. So likewise, I plan for a time of meal, right? Suppose I purchase a dress. I may plan to purchase accessories for the dress. Okay, if my dress color is red, I may look for a matching red color bangle or something like that. So knowing the way I am purchasing, if the items are arranged, that is nothing but finding association among the items what I do purchase. Oh, if the customer purchases, if most of the customers purchases bread, they have the tendency of purchasing butter also. They have the tendency of purchasing egg also. This is nothing but finding association among the purchase of the items. This kind of task is also happening under unsupervised learning. Okay, these are the popular algorithms in machine learning. Machine learning majorly divided into supervised and unsupervised. Under supervised, classification and regression are the major tasks. Clustering and dimensionality reduction is another task. So dimensionality reduction is too complex. I don't want to touch on this. Only you see the clustering. These many algorithms are there. For classifications also, these many algorithms. For regression also, these many algorithms. If you are excelling at two algorithms, is more than enough to get a job in a company. Now, the last kind of learning is reinforcement learning. I said, right, what is reinforcement learning? If I'm being provoked by my peers to study, it is nothing but reinforcement learning. Look into the picture. From the picture only, I explain. You people have the practice of playing games, right? So imagine there is a game picture. This is a player or icon in the game. You will call it as agent. So this agent always should take a path towards water. This agent should not take path towards the fire. Sorry. So this agent should not take path towards the fire. All right. Always he should take a path towards the water. So I should train this agent to take path towards water every time. So what do? Whenever he takes a path toward water, I am rewarding him. Whenever this agent is taking a path towards the fire, I am penalizing him. It means I am subtracting some points from him. So by the way, agent is learning, right? So whenever I move towards the fire, 50 points is reduced. So it's a bad path. I should not go here. But whenever I move towards the water, my points are getting increased. This is how the agent is learning. Such kind of learning is known as reinforcement learning. Okay, now we have come to the last portion of this session. This is a famous machine learning definition given by Tom Michel in the year 1998. He is claiming like that. A computer program is said to learn from experience E. A computer program is learning from its experience with respect to some objective or some task, and some performance measure is kept in mind. If its performance on T as measured by P, if it is improving with every time, if experience is improved, then it is machine learning. See, as it is, if you read the definition, it is really confusing. Just you remember what is E, what is T, and what is P. E is the experience, T is some task, P is some performance measure. Now look into the example. Suppose your email program is watching. You are getting emails, right, every day. You are marking some of the emails as spam. Some emails you are not marking as spam. This is watched by your email program. So email program is learning by itself. So whichever you marked spam, no, if any mail comes from that person, automatically it will move to the spam folder. Right? So this is a task. Now we relate this task with respect to the definition. What is a task? Classifying mails into spam and non-spam. What is the experience? Watching you. The email program is watching you. Which are the mails you are labeling as spam and which are the labels you are marking as not spam. That is experience. What is P? The performance measure. How many number of emails it correctly classified as spam and correctly classified as non-spam. That is the P, performance measure. That's the end of my session. See, I have concentrated on data science as well as machine learning. It's just an introductory talk. I just want you people to know or to be exposed to this. And if you are interested, you please continue to study in this domain. Last but not the least, I have a YouTube channel. My YouTube channel name is Master Computer Science Subjects. I have already uploaded videos in theory of computation. Theory of computation means, I don't know what is the name in your autonomous formal languages and automata theory. Finite automata, push-down automata, context-free languages, regular languages, and all you will be studying. No? All those things will be taught here. Then Python, I started uploading videos whenever I get time. Then system software and compiler design videos are there. You people can watch these videos. Last but not the least, to look into the video, very important information it is conveying. It is just a meme. There are many dogs, right? So what do you learn from this meme? All these dogs are driven by the person, in fact. So you look into the labels of the dogs: computer vision, data science, machine learning, deep learning, NLP. All these fields are driven by mathematics. You should have a basic and strong foundation in mathematics, especially probability and statistics. Thank you, students. Sir, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I stop sharing now?
Yeah. Stop sharing. Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm sure that our participants would have gained more knowledge from this webinar.
Okay. Can I take a chance to speak in Tamil now?
Yeah, definitely.
See, continuously I spoke in English. நானும் வந்து திருவாரூர்ல இருந்து வந்த பொண்ணுதான். ஆனா இன்னைக்கு வந்து தமிழ்ல பேசணுமா இங்கிலீஷ்ல பேசணுமா அப்படிங்கிற கன்ஃபியூஷன் எனக்கு நிறைய இருந்தது. இந்த கொஸ்டினை வந்து நான் மணிவண்ணன் சார்ட்ட கேட்டு தொல்லை பண்ணிட்டே இருந்தேன் நானு. அதுக்கப்புறம் நான் என்ன டிசைட் பண்ணினேன் அப்படின்னா, இஃப் யூ சரி நீங்க வந்து ஐடி இண்டஸ்ட்ரியில வந்து உழைச்சி குப்பை கொட்டணும்னா இங்கிலீஷுங்கிறது கண்டிப்பா தெரிஞ்சிருக்கணும். இங்கிலீஷ் ஆனா வந்து ஒரு ஜஸ்ட் ஃபார் கம்யூனிகேஷன், அதை வந்து பெரிய நாலேஜா எடுத்துக்க வேண்டாம். இங்கிலீஷ் வந்து கம்யூனிகேஷன். தப்பா பேசினாலும் தயவு செஞ்சு பேச ஆரம்பிங்க. ஏன்னா நானும் அதே காலேஜ்ல படிச்சு வந்த பொண்ணுதான். முதல்ல எனக்கு கம்யூனிகேஷன் இல்லை. ஈவன் தோ என்ன சொல்றது, நல்ல வந்து நான் வந்து 10th வந்து இங்கிலீஷ்ல வந்து ஸ்டேட் ஃபர்ஸ்ட். அதெல்லாம் இருந்தும் கூட இங்கிலீஷ்ல கம்யூனிகேட் பண்றதுங்கிறது வரல. ஏன்னா நமக்கு அந்த பிராக்டிஸ் கிடையாது. ஆனா நமக்கு இருக்கிற இன்டெலிஜென்ஸ் வந்து எல்லா இங்கிலீஷ்ல பேசுறவங்களுக்கும் இருக்கிறது கிடையாது. சோ அதனால இங்கிலீஷ்ல தயவு செஞ்சு பேச பழகுங்க. அதனாலதான் நான் இன்னைக்கு உங்களுக்கு புரியுதோ இல்லையோ இப்படியே பிரசன்ட் பண்ணுவோம். இது வந்து ரொம்ப முக்கியம்னு உங்களுக்கு தெரியணுங்கிறதுக்காக தான் நான் வந்து கண்டினியூஸா இங்கிலீஷ்ல பேசுறேன். ஐ எம் சாரி இஃப் இட் இஸ் நாட் ரீச்சிங் யூ கம்ப்ளீட்லி.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, now this is for time for vote of thanks. I would like to thank our chief guest, Mrs. J. Vimala Devi, who honored this webinar with her inspirational speech. Okay, thoughts. Then I would like to thank our participants for making this event grand success. Once again, I thank everyone participant here. Thank you. Chinadhar sir, excuse me. Sir, are you there? Hello, sir. Sir.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you, Umala Devi. ரொம்ப நன்றி. என்ன more than students எல்லாருமே happy தான். I think என்ன செப்பரேட்டா feedback கேட்டிருக்கோம். Anyway, we'll send the final feedback also. Thank you so much.
அதுக்கப்புறம் I have one request, சின்னதுரை. ஏதாவது வந்து உங்களுக்கு டெக்னிக்கல் ஹெல்ப் வேணும்னா சொல்லுங்க. பண்ணுவோம். ஏன் எனக்கு அந்த ஒரு ஆதங்கம்னா, நம்ம நல்ல நாலேஜ் இருக்கும், வந்து டக்குனு வந்து இந்த வெளியில தாசு புஸ்ன்னு இங்கிலீஷ் பேசுறவங்களை பார்த்து பயந்துட்டு அப்படியே உள்ள போய் உட்காந்துருவோம்.
உண்மை.
எனக்கு நான் வந்து நல்லா இம்ப்ரூவ் ஆயிருக்கலாம். நாகப்பட்டினம் இஜிஎஸ் பிள்ளை இன்ஜினியரிங் காலேஜும் நல்லா இம்ப்ரூவ் ஆயினேன். நான் பில்டிங்ஸ் எல்லாம் நான் இப்பதான் வந்து ரீசெண்டா பார்த்தேன். நானு ஒரு 4 years முன்னாடி ரொம்ப நல்லா டெவலப் ஆயிருக்குது. அதெல்லாம் பார்க்கும்போது பட் என்னுடைய ஜட்ஜ்மெண்ட் வந்து தப்பா கூட இருக்கலாம். இங்க இருக்கிறவங்களோட அங்க இன்னும் நல்லா எக்ஸல் பண்ணலாம். ஒண்ணும் கிடையாது. இங்க இருக்கிறவங்க அங்க இருக்கிறவங்க எல்லாம் ஒண்ணுதான். நான் வந்து அங்க இருக்கிற பசங்களுக்கும் பாடம் எடுத்திருக்கிறேன், சென்னையிலும் பாடம் எடுத்திருக்கிறேன், இங்க பெங்களூர்லயும் எடுத்திருக்கிறேன். ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் ஆர் த சேம். ஒன்லி திங் லிட்டில் கம்யூனிகேஷன். சோ எந்த ஹெல்ப்னாலும் கேளுங்க.
கட்டாயமா. Thank you so much. மணி இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் கொடுத்துற எல்லாருக்கும் certificate information.
Already sent sir.
Thank you.
PPT கொஞ்சம் எனக்கு மெயில் பண்ணனும் or வாட்ஸ்அப் பண்ணுங்க.
கண்டிப்பா சார், கண்டிப்பா பண்றேன்.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Session will be closed.
Thank you sir.